1/3 of Americans making $250,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck.
Champagne on the horizon. Champagne on the horizon.
No, this is I can't believe this. Yo, I legit can't believe this. Like, can't be that many people just out in these streets burning through that much money. Damn, look at this. That's insane. Millennials are in way more debt than boomers. What about all the other that can go wrong?
We were hit with a tax bill of almost $10,000.
Having more stuff isn't gonna make you happier.
A nice car, a fancy watch, and a big house do not mean that you are successful.
What the hell is going on in America? 1/3 of Americans making $250,000 a year are living paycheck to paycheck. It has to be sensationalized. There's no way people can make that much money and live paycheck to paycheck. That led me down a rabbit hole, which my producer Olivia happily went down with me, or depressingly went down with me. And so we're going to be discussing that today. Olivia, what are your thoughts?
I make a lot less than that, like a lot less than that. And I'm not living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, that's insane. I can see how those who live a super lavish lifestyle can do it, but 1/3 just seems like a lot. Like, it can't be that many people just out in these streets burning through that much money. You can earn a lot, but then you get taxed a ton. Versus business owners, you get taxed at a less rate and then you write off all your expenses. That's my premise going into this, but with that said, let's dive into some of these articles and videos and see what the hell is going on in America. Damn, look at this chart. It's particularly true among millennials in their mid-20 to early 40s. More than half of top earners in that generation report have little left behind at the end of the month. This is insane, Olivia. I can't believe this. 50% of people are living check to check who make 250 grand. 250 plus, 55% are living check to check. No, this is I can't believe this. Yo, I legit can't believe this. Like, oh, okay, living paycheck to paycheck doesn't necessarily mean hardship. And Lending Club makes the distinction between those who can pay their bills easily and those who can't. Only a fraction of high earners, roughly 1 in 10, reported issues of covering their household expenses in April. But that's still crazy to me. So let's talk about the housing piece of it. Yeah, housing is a lot. First rule of thumb is if you make $250K, you shouldn't be living in a $1.2 million house. If you made $250 and you bought that $1.2 million house, your tax bill is $115K, and then you minus the 100 grand mortgage, you're left with 35 grand a year divided by 12. Still $3 grand a month, but you haven't even started like balling out yet. Like, you haven't done like any other FOMO. You don't have the G-Wagon, the Rolex watch, some of the things that people need to think about, right? So even looking at this one point, like, we haven't even dived like super deep into this, but looking at this one thing, a high mortgage could sink you. With the American dream, people always talk about like, oh, like buying a house is the American dream. Not if you're over buying a house. If I'm in California, based on this example, you gotta move. It's not even like an option. There's no way that you could live in California and be financially free, because we haven't even started to talk about investing in anything. What about all the other that can go wrong? Tax bills. Imagine buying your house and doing all this stuff, and then all of a sudden the IRS comes after you. Happens all the time. Medical bills, emergencies, right? A radiator goes out. Your electric panels go out, like it did in my house. Second one is credit card debt. I think this one goes without saying. The problem I see with credit card debt is the fact it's like a recurring bill. Like, if you make like a one-time purchase or you make like one mistake, then it's cool. But if you have like 10, 15 G's on a credit card and you're paying off every month plus interest, you're just burning through money. So now that we've explored the fact that millennials are in way more debt than boomers, buying houses they really can't afford, they have a ton of credit card debt, I gotta think why. One of the key things to take a look at is gonna be FOMO.
Champagne on the horizon. Champagne on the horizon.
So Olivia, now that we're talking about FOMO, like, what do you think it comes from?
It's someone that like is from the generation that grew up with social media when it was first coming out, and is also a social media marketer, definitely causes a lot of FOMO. You've got to think everybody's posting the best pictures of themselves, what they're doing, Instagram stories, I'm eating here, I'm traveling there. It makes you want to do these things. So I'm not surprised that people are overspending, because, you know, I see people traveling, I'm like, oh, I want to go there, I want to go to the Maldives, even though it's expensive, but it looks gorgeous. You want to do these things and live these lives other people have. So it's definitely just like a pitfall for all these people to fall into this trap of spending money, I feel like.
Let's look at this reaction video, because I think he has a couple good points about that.
There's a lot of different definitions of success out there. Success can mean happiness, or having a sense of purpose, or giving back. But for the purposes of this video, when I talk about success, I'm talking solely financial success. Here's the thing. A nice car, a fancy watch, and a big house do not mean that you are successful, okay? It means that you possess nice stuff. Did you see what I did there? I said you possess nice stuff, not that you own it, because you don't own your car, your watch, or your house until you don't have to make payments on it anymore. Look, you cannot say that you own your car if you have to pay $500 to your bank in order to drive it, because if you didn't pay your bank for a couple months, then that car is not going to be yours anymore. So if you have a nice car, a big house, and a fancy watch, you possess some nice stuff. But that's not an indicator of how successful you actually are. If you want to look at success, you got to look a little bit deeper. If you want to go deep into credit card debt and live paycheck to paycheck, that way you can flex on Instagram, be my guest.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. Possessing nice stuff doesn't mean you're successful. That's what's wrong with society today, and why a lot of people are, you know, overbuying houses, as well as have all this credit card debt, because the illusion of success is what you think success actually is, and that's not what it is. What do you think about what he's talking about?
I feel like everybody has their own version of what success is. You know, what my version is might not be what your version of success is, and it's more about living within your means as well. Success doesn't mean having all these things. It doesn't mean having a handbag that, you know, oh my god, Louis Vuitton handbag. It doesn't mean having that Ferrari sports car. Success is what you deem as successful.
Yeah, no, definitely. Every time I acquire stuff, I don't really, I'm happy for 2 seconds. I bought a BMW, a 7 Series. Got a big check, went to the dealership, bought it cash, just like in the movies. And then I proceeded to run it into the ground. I didn't clean it as often as it needed to be cleaned. Didn't necessarily get all the oil changes. I remember I popped a tire. I think a tire was at the time, it was $400 to change the tire. I was like, bro, just park my car, bro. I don't have $400 on top of buying this car. So it's also the maintenance of FOMO, but I like what he's saying. You don't own this stuff. You're just renting it until you actually have full possession and are making payments on it. So now let's look at H.E.N.R.Y.s, what most people are, right? H.E.N.R.Y. stands for high earner, not rich yet. Who comes up with these freaking terms? This is absolutely hilarious to me. Yeah, let's see what the H.E.N.R.Y.s are doing. This is hilarious.
We turn now to a segment of the population some are calling H.E.N.R.Y.s. That stands for high earner, not rich yet. A recent study found that a majority of them feel like they live paycheck to paycheck.
They make more than $100,000 a year, usually in their 20s or 30s. The American dream, except when you factor in their student debt, rent, and personal spending. Many say that six-figure salary doesn't go nearly as far as you might think.
You're looking at the end of the month and you're kind of like, whoa, it costs this much to live?
34-year-old Courtney Nichols doesn't have high student loan debt. But even with the $300,000 she and her husband make annually in Virginia, they feel like they have to watch their spending.
When you look at all the tangibles on paper, it's like, oh, they've got a lot of money. But in essence, for instance, 6 years ago, we were hit with a tax bill of almost $10,000. It's like as soon as you get ahead or you take a few steps forward, you take a few steps back.
Going to somebody to tell you, hey, you're spending too much seems kind of funny, but I think what this young lady said, right, is kind of key. There's the unknown unknowns, right? There needs to be some sort of prudence involved in how much you actually save. You can't spend everything you have, even if it is on what you call an investment, as a house, because then you don't have anything to deal with issues like this, right? Like a 10 grand bill, something going wrong with the house, the heater going out, flooding in your house. I think those are some of the things that put people under. When we were in high school, if somebody was making $100,000 a year, they were driving a Ferrari, or at least that's what it seemed like, right? It's not the reality. No, they weren't driving a Ferrari. That's my point. Driving a Ferrari doesn't mean you own it. You didn't even say own a Ferrari. Because then you could easily do the math on that, right? You could say, oh, it's 250K, he makes 100 grand, he's paying 40 grand in taxes, 60 grand left, he lives in the house. There's no way he's owning it.
It's the psychology behind money, and it's like, do you actually own it, or are you just paying off debt?
Or just have a recurring debt that you'll never pay off.
Something else to account for, sky-high living cost. The median price for a home has spiked 19% in just 1 year, and it's particularly high in cities where many Henrys live. San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, and Washington, D.C. Some told us they want to be able to enjoy some luxuries for their hard work. There's also social elements, like FOMO culture.
Now that we've talked about how people are in debt, it's clear to see why people who make $250,000 are behind, right? First world problems, but still problems nonetheless. We've taken a look at FOMO, some of the factors that cause it. I came across this article, and this is just more of my personal opinion here. Why having more won't make you happy. But the crazy thing is that when you make people's lives more comfortable, they don't struggle less. They don't find fewer things to be upset about. They just start getting upset about stupider and stupider things. The human mind is just always going to have a baseline of a level of frustration. There's always this assumption that comfort and convenience is always better, and we don't have to pay attention on how that's warping our perceptions about the world. As I've become more successful and I've acquired more stuff, life becomes actually more stressful. I'll share some examples. The more cars you have, the more maintenance you got to go get done, etc., etc. The more clothes you buy, the more storage you need for them, the bigger your house, right? Even now, I just moved and I'm throwing a whole bunch of stuff away. The thing I liked about this article, the reason I want to share it, is having more stuff isn't going to make you happier. Acquiring less stuff and showing off less is actually going to make you more happy, and you won't even have to worry about retirement, because now we can take all those funds that you're using for the $1.2 million house. You can actually use that to secure your future and invest in some of the things we talk about on this channel.
When you buy something, you have that temporary moment of happiness, and then it's just gone. Money doesn't make you happy, and to be honest, I agree. It's the more you have, the more stressful it can be.
Acquiring things that you think or show that you have money isn't definitely going to make you happy. Some of the key takeaways are this. If you haven't bought a house yet and you're looking at a house, try to make sure that your house costs are no more than 25 to 30% of what you currently make. Maybe even less, because there are other things, other factors are going to come up. The second thing is with the credit card debt. I get it, you got to live your life. A lot of the stuff that you see on social media just isn't true. I've started to limit my social media. I don't want to seem like I always have to keep up with people, and the less things I buy, the less things I have to store, the more happier I am and the more secure I am about my finances, because I'm saving more money. The third takeaway is that acquiring all these things doesn't make you more happy. It just makes you more stressed. The more stuff you have, the more expensive it is. The better your car, the more insurance you have to pay. The bigger your house, the more your electric bill is and your lighting bill is. Stop buying stuff, right? Nobody's going to be checking for you. You're only going to be happy for 5 minutes, and then you're going to need the next thing. With that said, this is Make It Make Sense. Follow us on all the socials. If you're on the website, you can enter your email address. If you're on YouTube, you can click the link below. Here to take you to our Patreon if you want a more in-depth detail. We kind of dive into these topics a little more. I'll see you in the next video.